Now we're going over to the States, if my words will come out properly. A New York judge has ruled that Donald Trump repeatedly misrepresented his wealth by hundreds of millions of dollars to both banks and insurers.
So this is what the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, had to say.
We're filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump for violating the law as part of his efforts to generate profits for himself, his family, and his company.
Donald Trump says the ruling is false, and he lashed out on social media. He's written, "I have been unfairly sued by this Trump-hating Democrat Attorney General of New York State." You wouldn't expect anything less, really.
Yeah. Well, Greg Swenson said from Republicans Abroad, that Attorney General, she is very political, isn't she? Because, by definition, they are in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, some judges are appointed, some are elected. But her campaign, she was elected, she ran on the campaign strategy of get Trump.
Yeah.
Or I'm the best suited to get Trump.
Yeah.
So, it's really obvious that this is a politically motivated case. This was not brought to trial or there was no accusation by Deutsche Bank. They didn't lose money. They're all happy. And so this was really the Attorney General looking for something to get Trump on, which she clearly stated in her campaign.
And what is it? Fraud? What is the alleged crime?
They're arguing that it's fraud by inflating the value of the assets, which is what real estate developers typically try to do, get the most value. But and they also pay a higher tax bill when they do that. So you can really argue that this is a witch hunt, whether you like President Trump or not.
Yeah.
And I surely wouldn't advocate for him or cover for him on a lot of the things that he does, and a lot of his wounds are self-inflicted. But this is pretty obvious that it's the weaponization of the justice system.
It's still extraordinary to me. I know what America does things differently. To see a law officer like the Attorney General attacking, drawing and quartering the person who she's investigating, or he's investigating, with a little row of people behind nodding, and it's an extraordinary way to conduct
it really
affairs.
And we haven't seen that typically, and it's only recently where there is this sort of hypocrisy and a two-tiered system. In many ways, there's a double standard, and you could see how the DOJ and many of the lawyers involved in the FBI and the DOJ, the IRS, have really treated the Trump family or Trump himself so differently than the way they've covered for Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So that doesn't sell well with the electorate.
I was going to say, it's playing to his strengths, isn't it?
Absolutely.
This is a gift for him.
Look what happened with the indictment. The first big indictment was the Alvin Bragg indictment, which was also, like Letitia James, very political. He ran on the same campaign slogan of get Trump. And when he announced his indictment, Trump's numbers went up 30 points. It's phenomenal how it's in many ways, we would suspect that the Democrats are doing this on purpose because they want Trump to be the candidate. So it's elevated Trump. But now it's looking like it might have backfired because his numbers are up in the general election as well, not just in the Republican.
So if there was a general election, according to the numbers now, would he win?
According to the polls now, yeah, and it's a snapshot in time. It's early, but he pulled the ABC Washington Post poll came out over the weekend and really sent some shockwaves to the Democrats. It had Trump winning by 10 points. Now that's not realistic, really, but he's polling at 23 on the border, he's polling at 30 on the economy, and 37 overall. He is a really flawed candidate. So this is not only is the failure of Biden helping Trump, but also these indictments have really helped Trump. And you go back a year ago, Trump was only up 9 points over DeSantis in August of 22. After the Mar-a-Lago raid, he was up 39. And then that bump faded over time. Governor DeSantis had a phenomenal midterm re-election. Everything was humming along, and he was only down 12 or 15 in April of this year. And then the Alvin Bragg indictment came. Lead grows to 30, 40, 50.
Now, the 6 Republican candidates today, this evening, is it this evening?
It is, yeah.
A Republican debate, and of course, Donald Trump will not be turning up. Is he trying to avoid scrutiny?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think when he avoided the first debate in Milwaukee, it might have been tactically smart because his lead was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the numbers after the debate, kind of reflected voter concern that he wasn't willing to work. He wasn't willing to be on stage with the other candidates. Maybe that, again, that might be tactically smart in the near term. But this gives the other candidates an opportunity to demonstrate that they have a vision, they're fighting, and they're doing the work.
Yeah, but Greg, will any of them actually say on the stage tonight, or are they too worried about the effect? Will they denounce him?
I think they will. It's possible. I mean, Chris Christie did a great job of it last time.
He's the big guy, really big guy.
He's quite the Trump critic. He's no chance of winning, by the way. So he's kind of the rabbit.
Is he bottom of the pack?
He is. He's sort of part of the bottom of the pack. And that herd will be culled, perhaps even after the debate tonight.
Yeah.
The fundraising numbers, quarterly fundraising numbers, will be announced shortly after this Saturday, after the September 30th quarter ends. That will cull the herd a little bit, too, because the people that can't fundraise obviously have no chance of winning. So this is a chance for maybe Governor DeSantis and Nikki Haley to emerge from the pack a little bit.
She's the former ambassador, isn't she?
That's right. Former ambassador and former governor of South Carolina.
Yeah.
So she did well in the Milwaukee debate. Governor DeSantis has got a phenomenal ground game in Iowa, so that's really what everyone's looking toward. You know, these debates are important. They're not going to move the polls that much, but it will thin the herd. So it's Trump versus one or two other candidates.
What about the young billionaire who there's been a lot written about?
He's got some staying power because he's spending his own money.
Remind us his name.
Vivek Ramaswamy. And he's
running to be vice president candidate.
Yes,
isn't
he was starting to shine a bit, wasn't he?
But he knows he's going to be the running mate, not the presidential candidate.
He's speaking so highly of Trump all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, are you really running against him or not? But I think, you know, Vivek has staying power only because he's bankrolling his own campaign. The other candidates, especially besides Governor DeSantis, don't have the fundraising prowess that he has. So you'll see some drops. So ultimately, I think what the other candidates would want is one candidate, maybe two, running against Trump. Because if it's 6 or 7, then they'll just split the non-Trump vote, which is what happened in 2016. He was winning early primaries with only a third of the vote. But the other 2/3 was split 8 or 10 ways. So that's not sustainable. So I think hopefully with these debates, we'll get down to one or two candidates. I hope it's Governor DeSantis.
He's got to raise his game, though, hasn't he? Because he was doing so well, and then he sort of faded away, Greg.
But look at the timing. You're right, Andrew, but look at the timing. He was only down 9. He was doing great. And then the Alvin Bragg indictment, and then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and, of course, the mugshot. Trump was able to raise $7 million the day after the mugshot.
Looking like a criminal.
It's amazing. And so it's counterintuitive. But I do think that the left and much of the legacy media in the U.S. wants Trump to be the candidate because they think he could lose. But that's changing in the last week or so.
Just very quickly, what are the dividing lines at the moment within the Republican Party? Is it mostly the economy? Is it immigration? Is it environmental issues? What is it that sets these candidates apart from one another, apart from not being Trump?
Not very much. Okay, so there's each one of them has a lane or a vertical. So Vivek has the populism. Mike Pence has traditional conservatism. Nikki Haley's more of a moderate. So, you know, everybody's got something. I think DeSantis has the best package because he does have a populist following. He is a true conservative, but he's also got the track record. You know, he won his state by 19 points in November. You know, that's pretty phenomenal in a state like Florida, which was a swing state only 2 years ago.
Only got 30 seconds. Our Home Secretary made this keynote speech in Washington last night. The New York Post, in an editorial, said if only American politicians could make the case about what's wrong with immigration and as well as Braverman. And she went down a storm, didn't she?
Most of them will. And that's why, to answer your question, Emily, there isn't a lot of difference in terms of policy. So the immigration or illegal immigration will be a very big topic. And it's been a complete disaster under President Biden.
Yeah.
And so that helps Trump in one way. But Trump didn't really do that well on immigration. It was better than Biden. That's an understatement. But he didn't build the wall. So I think some of the other candidates can come in and say, okay, President Trump talked a big game in 2016, definitely had a reduction in illegal immigration, night and day compared to the failure of the Biden administration. But who could be more effective at getting it done? What Trump can really run on is the economy. But all of the candidates will run on the economy. You know, supply side, reducing regulatory burden on the private sector, and of course, keeping taxes reasonable. Pro-growth, traditional Republican,
I guess
sunny optimism will
there's probably a difference of opinion when it comes to protectionism versus free trade and all that. That's all we've got time for, Greg.
True.
Thank you
Great
so
to be
much
here.
for coming in
Thanks.
and talking to us.